Aboriginal and Northern Development Canada has opened the bidding for a contract to advise First Nations communities on how best to adapt to climate change. The contract is for a team of 6, 2 project managers, 2 senior analysts, and 2 analysts. Their job will be, listen to this, to help the Government of Canada have timely and specialized expertise required to support the development of adaptation measures to address the impacts of climate change in First Nations communities south of the 60th parallel for the next 2.5 years, with the option of an additional 2 years tacked on at the end of the contract. Wordy nonsense. First off, as much as I hate to use the language of the left, I think it's a little paternalistic for the Government of Canada to think that they have some sort of advice to give Canada's First Nations communities. You know, the communities the government is constantly telling us are already very in tune with the land and nature on how best to adapt to the changing environmental conditions all around them. Seems a little weird, right? Especially from a bunch of people who claim to be anti-colonialist. But besides the left not playing by their own rules, there's a way more pressing issue at hand for Canada's First Nations communities than a minuscule change in the weather that may or may not even be happening at all. I checked the Aboriginal and Northern Development Canada's website this morning. There are still over 100 First Nations communities facing nearly 150 different boil water advisories. And even though during his campaign, Prime Minister Trudeau promised to eliminate boil water advisories on Aboriginal reserves within 5 years, there are actually more boil water advisories now than when he first became Prime Minister. It is getting worse and not better. In Trudeau's first 100 days as Prime Minister, he spent over $4 billion on foreign aid, including refugee relief and fighting climate change in other countries. He spent less than $1 billion here in Canada during that same time period. Now imagine if Trudeau kept his promise and had prioritized Canada's First Nations communities the way he prioritized his SJW causes in the rest of the world. How many water treatment plants in Canada can be purchased with that $4 billion in foreign aid? It's an international disgrace that there are parts of Canada where people still live in third world conditions. But it won't ever change as long as we have politicians in Ottawa who think people whose tap water can kill them actually care about climate change. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. At The Rebel, we catalog Justin Trudeau's broken promises. We don't try to memory hold them. If you believe in our journalistic mission, go to theycan'tstopus.com.